guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave. So today we're going to be talking about, well, just a thought about could there be potentially a Back to the Future spin-off. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is because I seen this article. Somebody actually posted this on Facebook. It's from a DeLoreanRental.com website, and it's saying that the Cobra Kai creator is in talks, I guess, to kind of do some kind of spin-off with Back to the Future. And the Cobra Kai show really kind of told us that we kind of like this direction. We like that they took something that existed in the 80s, like the Karate Kid series that a lot of us watched when we were kids. I did. I loved all the movies. I've seen them all quite a few times, especially the first two, the original two. And I really like that the Cobra Kai series was able to kind of bring new life into those characters again, bring them back up onto the screen. We get to catch up with where they are and what they're doing, and it's really nice to actually be able to see this type of thing. And it does kind of make you wonder, like, is this a good direction to go in? Can we go back to the 80s and find other things that we grew up with and we liked and expand upon their universe? Not necessarily continuously redo them, reboot them, or whatever it's called, remake them, where you like they did with Ghostbusters, where they just take a whole new storyline and just pretend the original didn't exist, but actually just expand upon the original. And it's kind of what they're doing with the Ghostbuster movie. It was supposed to be released this year, but because of the whole COVID thing, it just never got released. But it's the same concept. And hopefully we get that Afterlife, the Ghostbusters Afterlife, sometime next year, because I'm really curious to see it. And they kind of took that same direction where it's the same world that the original Ghostbusters lived in. It's just in present time, and it's kind of like a side story. It's kind of like something that happened that has sort of a correlation with the original. So the question really is, could a Back to the Future kind of prequel, or I don't know if you want to call it a prequel or not really a prequel, because that would predate the original, but like a spin-off, could it possibly happen? And I was kind of going back and forth on that, because the problem with the Back to the Future series was it was created kind of like a beginning, middle, and end, and that was it. And even the creators, Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis, when they created it, and they said, at the end, we're not going to do a part 4. A lot of people were asking for it. They wanted a part 4, just like we always wanted a Ghostbusters 3. But they said, no, it's done. It starts, you see the first movie, it ends with to be continued, the second movie ends with to be concluded, and the third movie just simply says the end, and that is it. And it's a nice little package. I mean, you get to see everything going on. You get to see Marty McFly's life. You get to see him in the past. You get to see his family in the past. You get to see the future. So they kind of wrap everything up in a nice little package and call it a day. So a lot of fans would say, no, we don't need another one. We don't need to continue on the story. It's done. Marty McFly now knows that, he's in charge of his own future. And that's the end of it. But keep in mind, there was a cartoon which actually did exist. Now, this cartoon was obviously a little bit different. And during that time, I think the cartoon did come out in the 80s. I don't know if it was in the 90s. I don't remember. I just remember when it did come out. I watched a few of it. They did the same thing with like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and a bunch of other movies where they just came out with these cartoons that just kind of it just kind of took away from the original story and just kind of made its own thing. Where Doc Brown was, he had his time traveling train, but the DeLorean still existed, and Marty McFly kept going back in time and seeing relatives, and they just kind of expanded upon the original movie concept and just made it a cartoon. But that's different. What we're talking about here is actually potentially a spin-off, in that are we going to look at Marty McFly's life today? But how is that going to be? I mean, we already saw how the future was supposed to end up. So we know that as of today, there are no flying cars, there's no hoverboards. So, what time frame are we supposed to be looking into? Are we going to go into the past? Are we going to go into the future? It really is kind of interesting, how many scenarios you can make out of it. But we do know that Marty McFly doesn't know what happens to him now in the future because he changed things at the end of the third movie when he didn't get into the car accident. So his future is still unwritten. However, Doc Brown at the end did time travel away in his train, which whatever. That was his plans to begin with. But he said he went to the future, and so who knows? Maybe he just went back to the 1800s and wanted to go back and live in the cowboy days until he passed away. Maybe that was his plan. So really, there isn't a whole lot to work with because everything has already been wrapped up. So where are we going to go from there? One of my thoughts was perhaps, somebody stumbles upon Doc Brown's plans, his blueprints or whatever, if for whatever reason, if he left them lying around somewhere, and decides to actually build himself a time machine. Now that might be actually kind of fun. Bearing in mind that you probably couldn't include the original cast in this because it wouldn't really work. Like you couldn't bring Doc Brown back because why would he come back to 1985 or 2020 or specifically when this would actually be taking place? Why would Doc Brown know to come back? And nobody's going to know where he is anyways. He could have gone at any point in time. We don't know where he went. Probably not even Marty knows where he went. We couldn't really include Marty McFly because, Michael J. Fox, although he is alive, he is not at his best as far as being able to act and do his, role. And he's I guess he's retired now, so he's dealing with his own illnesses. So even if he were to want to make an appearance, it wouldn't make much sense to bring his character on because what is he going to contribute? Other than just saying, don't do it, it's a bad idea. Other than that, who do we have left? We have Biff. Why would Biff learn his lesson? He got hit hard, throughout the movie, and he got a mouthful of crap a few times, but where's Biff going to go in this? So this kind of leads to we have to almost create a whole new cast of characters, and we need a plot, we need a point. And why would this person be building a time machine? What would they be expecting to build? Is it going to be a DeLorean again? Would he want to find a new DeLorean and build this thing and actually make it work? All that would just be kind of interesting, but where are we going with this? And would this person eventually be able to go through time? But yeah, it's just thoughts that I was just having, and whether this thing can actually, come to be. It's interesting because like Cobra Kai left a lot of characters with a lot of uncertain futures, whereas in Back to the Future, we kind of saw what can happen and what might happen and what will happen, and that's it. It wrapped up nicely. So I don't know where there's anywhere we can go with this storyline. That and do we really want to tarnish what was already a great series, a great movie? Do we really want to do this? Do we really want to add something that might actually hurt the series? In general, the cartoon, I think a lot of people really just ignored it. But if something like a huge Netflix series were to come about, they would have to do it really well done. And, do you want to risk that? Anyways, I always like to hear what you have to say. Throw some comments down below. Like I said, I don't know if this is actually like a true article. It's on DeLoreanRental.com. But I don't know if this is actually valid and if someone didn't just make this up. But it's still cool to think about it. And what other movies would actually work from the 80s, like 1980s? We had tons of them, tons of classics that we can bring back. Just one that I always keep thinking about would be Home Alone. With Macaulay Culkin. That would be kind of neat to have another Macaulay Culkin Home Alone movie where he's the adult and his kid gets left alone somewhere. That I think would be kind of interesting. Anyways, hope you liked the video. Throw some comments down below. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.